Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Arruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I am your host, Arruda, and we are filming today in studio. And holy smokes, are we so excited because I am talking plurally because it is not just me, it is me and my favorite executive co-host, Matt Arruda.
It's me.
It's me, Mario.
It's me, Mario.
How fun is this? We've never done this together before.
I know. In our hood too, right down the road from where we live, right down the road from where we work. It feels very comfortable.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a plot twist because I had a different plan for today.
Yeah.
And the universe sometimes really takes care of you. We have at the time of recording this, we are gearing up for a massive but very, very exciting project for Benchmark Fitness. And we have a full ass day.
We have a full ass day. There's no half assing about this one.
It's our whole ass.
All day. All
and
day.
It is full.
All ass.
And it I feel like I really thrive in high energy. And sometimes I even admit that I think I thrive in a little bit of chaos. It's maybe the event planner in me.
This one's a little chaotic.
This is a bit chaotic.
You are thriving on another level if this is what you lean into, because today is the day of pure chaos from morning until bedtime.
But how blissful. And we're also in a season of momentum, which we've talked about on the show together before.
Yeah.
And so I think it is really cool that we are here in the middle of our momentum season, in the middle of a momentum day, and we are going to be talking about the Benchmark story.
I think that's kind of fun because we've had a lot of incredible relationships that have come through in the course of the last few years, but really more specifically in the last 2 or 3. We've owned Benchmark for almost 6 years now, which is hard to believe. But there are a lot of very important people in our life right now that have never known anything other than you and I as part of Benchmark. There's no other life prior to the last 6 years, let's say. It's only been this, and it could not be further from the truth, right? So it's exciting to kind of share what the full story is, especially for new followers, new listeners, new community members and gym members that are listening to this that might not know what the genesis of Benchmark is. I mean, you kind of take it for granted. I do sometimes too. It's this amazingly special, impactful place in the heart of our community. But how did it come to be? And today's the day.
Well, it's wild to think back that this opportunity, which I know you're going to touch on, came to us in 2018. And time of recording this, we are in 2025. And it took about a year of not only us making that intentional decision, and maybe I'll even back up to say that you and I had a dream of owning a gym or a studio. At one point, we were looking at some franchise opportunities. That was a 5-year plan, dream, and plan in 2017, 2018.
So much so that you actually took on personal trainer roles as a means of immersing yourself in the industry and becoming a little bit more aware of what it took and what the magic is on the backside of that curtain that a lot of our members and our personal training clients, they don't need to see, they don't get to see. So kudos to you for kind of doing a little bit of the apprenticeship work prior to. And it's funny how, we now know and are much more aware of things like our, reticulating activation system. And these are all things that we are in constant discussion about how we were trying to attract what it is that we are looking for. And it's funny how in that time, the opportunity to purchase what we now have as Benchmark, it became available to us right when we were looking for it, not any time earlier, and certainly not after the fact when we had already done something somewhere else and it was too late. So everything happens when it's supposed to.
It's so interesting, and I feel like even before we get into the real meat of the story, even painting this picture, especially if you were hearing this story for the very first time, when we moved to Burlington, Ontario, where we currently live, we were seeking a gym that was on the priority list for us to find before we even moved into our house. And we found this gym. It's in the downtown core. It's steps from the water, which is really beautiful. It's a beautiful setting. We wanted to be able to live close and be able to walk to the gym. That was important to us. But I think especially me coming from living in downtown Toronto, prior to that, I was used to that walkability. So we found this gym. We were members of this gym. We invested in personal training at the gym, gearing up for our wedding and our honeymoon. Do you remember all this? And then kind of steps forward to wanting to own something of our own, putting that dream out there, and ultimately attracting it.
Yeah, and we were, side note, we were members of this gym before we actually even got the keys to our new house. I remember we bought the house, didn't close on it for 3 months, but made sure that we lined up a spot, because at the time, and we're getting close to it now, which is kind of interesting in its own right, after changing the business model on its own, on its head, but we had to join a wait list. And we were on that wait list for the better part of a couple of weeks, got the phone call that there was an available spot, or two as it needed to be, and we jumped on it and became members a month prior to us actually physically getting the keys to the space that we now live in and have lived in for the last almost 11 years. And thank God. I mean, everything happens in the order it needs to happen. And it's funny when you think about all the woulda and couldas and what woulda beens if nothing else kind of came to fruition in that exact path. But here we are celebrating what's going to be almost 6 years of ownership of this space. And we'll tell you a little bit about our journey, because it has not been the smoothest right out of the gate, but my God, I don't think we could be, and I'll speak for both of us, I don't think either one of us could be more grateful for the trials and the lessons that we're still continuing to learn, and not only how it's made us better and stronger and all the rest, but it has directly impacted how we make a lot of other decisions outside of those walls and for the rest of our lives.
And I love that we had the opportunity to be members of the gym before and embracing what the, I'm going to say vibe, but yet there wasn't really a vibe, but it was a nice enough gym. It had up-to-date equipment. It was clean, and it wasn't really that busy. But
so we've all been, and more specifically myself, been a part of larger big box gyms. And you kind of go in and you got your blinders on, you work out, you try to sneak into the machines that are available when they're available, get in and out of the change rooms as fast as you can.
Don't trip on the gym bags that are littered on the floor.
It is what it is, because it's all you think exists, that you don't think that there's another option other than that if you're looking to work out in a more urban area, or even suburban for that matter. And so when we found this place, we thought we kind of came up against a little nugget of gold here, where here's this deeply entrenched community gym space that is effectively just that. It's a place you come do your cardio, you lift some weights, maybe you do some one-on-one personal training. That's kind of it. You don't really make a ton of friends, but Lord, the opportunity to make this something more than what it was when we were just members in this space, we talked about it a lot. So when we fast forward to having the real proper conversations surrounding, we'd love to get into the fitness industry and be able to secure a business of some sort that impacts as many people as we can, and love to do it in the community that we live in, I don't think it's much of a coincidence that within a year and change thereafter, this exact space that we were already invested in became available. So I think we knew we wanted to do this, but it comes with a healthy investment, and it comes with a change in life and a change in what your goals and what your timelines are going to have to look like for things that are close to you. But if you recognize the opportunity, and more than that, what you can do with that opportunity, understanding or knowing that this space or this business, and I'm using Benchmark as the benchmark here, but prior to that, I mean, it wasn't even called Benchmark, right? It was something different. It was called something different, that it existed as such, and it was a gym prior to. But we knew if we can get our hands on this, and we can put our own personality into this, and we can bring the change that we know would be positively affected within the community, it could be a massive game changer, a real staple, real anchor, not just for our livelihoods and all the rest, but the lives that we can then impact moving forward. So that's the first massive lesson that I think we learned quickly there, but we apply it to a lot of other things. We look at everything with eyes wide open and think to ourselves, is this an opportunity that we can take advantage of, that we can make better for everybody coming along for the ride moving forward?
One thing before getting on to sort of our next nugget about vision, I wanted you to touch on something that I think is really powerful, and it's also so hot on my brain because I listened to an amazing podcast just yesterday on the treadmill with Alex Hermosi, who I know we both love because of his experience with growing and launching gyms. But what you said about sacrifice, that we had to make some big decisions when we were about to purchase what is now Benchmark. And, you had something that you really loved in your life and you sold it for a higher purpose. And I think that's a really powerful piece here to kind of elaborate on as a bit of a sidebar of talking about that sacrifice and what that could mean for people.
I think anything that you find value in is going to come at some price of something else. And it's something that you either are okay with it or you're not, but that doesn't change the fact that that's the price of it. End of story. And whether or not you make that decision to pay the price, whatever that looks like, and whether that be in dollars or in time or in both, at the end of the day, you're the only one who can justify whether or not what you're getting back for that price per se is going to be the kind of ROI that is going to move the needle for you moving forward. And for us, it was and has been, I think, a tremendous lesson, but at the same time, nothing that we would trade the world for. We would do it all again, over and over again, I think.
And again, you guys, for all of you listening, just for context, that we actually make some of these decisions that are sacrifice based annually. Like we do this every year because our vision and our goals are so big. We are dreaming so big right now that we are very aware that, when we celebrate Christmas, just me and you, that we go in it with a very different perspective of like, you don't need to go spend, hundreds of dollars on me. Let's get each other something nice, or maybe let's do an experience together, because what we want is so much greater than that. And I think that is something that's really powerful to keep front of mind, top of mind, your North Star, because you are working for something bigger.
Yeah, and you're doing it for more than just yourself.
Exactly.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things to say is like you get to a point where you actually create something special, and where it really takes off is when you're anchoring it to somebody other than you, that you're showing up and you're building and you're creating for something other than just yourself. That's where things move quickly and you find ways for it to be as successful as possible, as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, after we recognized the opportunity, we wanted to approach things with a vision. And that's a big word that I feel like we've been talking about a lot, even just though we're 1 month into 2025, but having that vision. And again, for context, I lived in downtown Toronto for 10 years. Then Matt and I moved in together, bought our house. So I had experience going to different gyms than Matt did he lived in a different city in Ontario. I was downtown Toronto. So I went to a bunch of different gyms, big, small, hot studios. So I had a lot of experience with that and really wanted to take that into what we were creating. And as Matt mentioned, the gym did previously have a different name, one that we did not connect with. It was not an energetic match for Matt and Allie. We wanted something greater. We wanted a brand. We wanted to build a brand that was sexy, that was attractive to people, that people would be proud to wear on hats, t-shirts, sports bras, sweatshirts, maybe a gym bag, and something that would really stand out in the marketplace of the fitness industry. And we had a brain dump of names. Matt really came to play when it came to brainstorming, and we narrowed it down to our top 5 names for the gym, then the top 3, and we shared it with a really intimate focus group, if you will, of our family and some of our best friends. And there was a common theme with the one name, Benchmark Fitness, that everybody picked, and that was, I need to give full credit here, you guys, that was a Matt Arruda selection.
Well, I think there's a proper play on words there, right? Goes without saying, for the industry that we're in and for the specific business that we have in that industry, it makes a lot of sense, and you can use it a few different ways. So I think people have caught on to it because it's an easy name to remember. It's not some, I don't know, Greek Latin word that means something that no one's heard of before when you have to pronounce it properly for it to actually come across normal. It's a normal word, but it could mean a lot and does mean a lot in its own way and in your own specific fitness journey. So it's played out well, but that's not to say that that's the only reason why it's played out well. I think, the incorporation of the branding surrounding that and behind that with One of our best friends, Rochelle Savel, who is the absolute genius behind so many people's branding stories, but Benchmark being one of them, we gave it to her and she gave us a mock-up of like 4 or 5 different color palettes and different fonts and such. And we were able to, I think, pretty quickly recognize this one with all the negative space behind it. This is the one that is going to speak to the sexiness you're talking about and trying to find something that is unique and something that didn't exist before in the same space. So we ran with that, and I think it's been successful to the point where we'll have people that have just most recently, a week ago, who have driven in from out of the city, out of where we live, and have knocked on the doors at 5, 6 o'clock at night. They are not members of ours. I don't even know their name, but they follow us, and they are there for no other reason but to buy our gear, and that's really amazing. When I'm driving around town and I'm seeing new members, old members that don't exist at all with us anymore, and they're still walking around the city with hats and hoodies and things of that nature. There's obviously a pride there, but it's more also something that clearly resonates with them as it being a cool item versus just a cool gym.
Yeah. And that's where the whole vision play came into effect, was really getting dialed in with working with a professional, Rochelle, to help bring our vision to life and build this strong, powerful brand that, is currently in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, but maybe one day it's in New York City or California, something that can grow and have this strength and power in any city that it is in or in the online space, and having something that we're excited to grow with and scale. And I'm still obsessed with our brand. I love it. I love the palette that we have to work with. And I'm so proud to see it in photos and the content that we create. And oh my gosh, does it feel so amazing when you see other people capture your brand and your business that you've worked so hard to create, that they are so proud to capture and share with their audiences.
We joke about it because we don't have children, but Benchmark is our baby.
Yeah, 3 dogs and a Benchmark.
Yeah, we've got a Benchmark who has, she's about to turn 6.
Yeah.
And she has given us highs and lows across the board, but nevertheless, it feels like a living being that we're very much responsible for.
Well, it's funny, and I think you're going to touch on the resilience component of our story, but there were a few years there we sort of joked that our baby was very colicky.
Yeah.
It was a big colicky face.
Well, we can get there now, obviously, right? We can talk about that in and of itself. The idea of adding value to the space and what we wanted to implement therein, they were all part of the vision for sure. But before we were even able to get there, we bought the gym space in the summer of 2019. A month later, we decided to dump a bunch of time and a bunch of money into creating what is now what we know as Benchmark, knocking down walls, rebranding everything, implementing a ton of new equipment, all of these things that allowed us to be Benchmark as we know it, right?
One thing I want to add in there is we also really wanted to think about the sense. And I think this is a really powerful component when creating a space and an experience is, what does it look like? What does it feel like in terms of, maybe you have plush towels, or we wanted to bring in plants, real plants. So that's beautiful. So you see it with your eyes. You can feel that it is a real plant. We also wanted to bring in a scent, something that was really fresh, and being able to infuse those senses, if you will, into the overall Benchmark experience.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that because I felt like we were so excited and passionate about creating that when creating the overall gym experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It still holds as a big part of what we're doing now from day one into year 6 and beyond. I think all of the senses, including scent, is an important part of an elevated experience wherever you're at. Compare it to a high-end hotel or a spa or whatnot. All that stuff goes a long, long way. But what I was referencing was, all that brings us to early ownership days, where we had all this great idea and ambition and effort, and brought in an amazing team to do all kinds of work for us on the interior of the space. And we had our grand opening in November of 2019, and could not be more excited about all of the newness that we were bringing down here to Burlington, and beyond, ideally, one day. And we all know where everything went 3 months later.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we don't need to play a little violin here. We all went through it. We all felt a lot of feelings over the course of the next 2.5+ years. But the one thing that cannot be argued, because it's just what it is where we live, is there wasn't an industry that was more affected more acutely than the fitness industry, and more specifically, the in-person fitness industry. Sure, everything closed down for a period of time, or times, let's say, and there were certain restrictions once you did open, but at least in a lot of these other cases, they got to open. We just did not. We were not able to, and nor were we able to implement anything that could live online, because we're a brick and mortar business, and you can't rent a treadmill to somebody. You can't rent a squat rack to somebody. That's not how it goes. So it goes without saying that over the course of the first 2.5 years minimum of our business, it was extremely stressful, because rent still came out and bills were still owed, and we had no blueprint, nor did anybody else for that matter, obviously, but there was no blueprint as to deal with what this looked like on a large scale from a financial perspective. And there was plenty of days where fully transparently, I didn't think that this was going to have legs to do much more than what we had done for the first few months. And hey, it was a great opportunity. It was a good try, but we just happened to look a bull right between the eyes when we didn't know it was a bull and we're about to get run over. And it hurt for a while. It sucked a lot for a while. I did have a second job, and that helped with what we were able to do in our household and what that meant for our business as well. But that's not to say that it made it sting anymore, because we had massive ambitions for what Benchmark was going to be. And before it had a chance to even start crawling, our legs were taken out from underneath us, and we weren't able to get back on track for literally years. In fact, the first 3 years of Benchmark's existence, we were actually never in the gym to celebrate the yearly anniversary that had just passed. We were closed for all 3 of those June 1st anniversaries, which is to say that it really creates a thick skin for what happens thereafter. And we look at each other now, and the resilience that's grown out of that, the lessons, my God, the lessons that we've learned out of that, whether it be dealing with clients, or whether it be dealing with certain bureaucratic red tape when we're trying to get something completed, anything that we look at as a challenge. Now, if we take a quick second and reframe it, comparatively speaking, to what the challenges once were not that long ago, I think it's really easy for us to look at each other now and say, well, we got this. We'll just figure it out, because it can't be as hard as what we've already done to get to this point anyway.
Absolutely. And I think that, this part of our story that's resilience-based, because there were some other things that happened in those years that were just sort of like, kicking you when you're down, really ties in beautifully to what I wanted to go into the direction of next, is talking about leveling up with your personal development and self-improvement. Naturally, we had, especially me, because I was the primary person in the gym, because Matt also had another job, as he shared. So I was in there, and I was excited about it. So when we were not opened, I had a lot of extra time on my hands. So I had a great little business in the network marketing space to support some bills, but also be online and have a different type of purpose. But we also created a lot of space to prioritize personal development. And I really think that that is such a key in entrepreneurship and business as a whole, being a better person, leveling up as a person, how you can show up as a better partner and friend. And so we made a lot of time for that. And once we were in a position where the gym reopened and we were back to running our business and generating some revenue, we started to have conversations about making bigger investments beyond, maybe $500 a year for personal development. Maybe that would be double or triple. You want to be mindful, you want to be smart with your money, and depends where you are at. If you're listening to this and thinking about it, you get a hell yes from Matt and Ali Arruda on making investments to get in rooms and growing and expanding yourself with personal development. But you also want to be respectful and give yourself grace to where you are in your particular point in business and time and financial opportunities. But we made a decision, especially in 2023, where we invested in one of Chris Harder's 2-day masterminds. And that was a real turning point for us. That was really exciting. I have so much love and respect for those days that we went to Arizona. So not only are you investing not 1, but 2 spots for both of us to go, and going and traveling to Arizona, staying there for a few days and getting in the room. And because you've made this bigger investment, you want to show up and play full out. And that was such an amazing turning point for us to really level up our game.
Yeah, I mean, and this probably stands to be its own podcast on and of itself, right? But the magic of that room, and Lord knows you've heard me talk about this over and over again, how important it is to get in the rooms. But the magic of that room allowed us to see things outside of just the tunnel that we had been standing in and looking at ourselves. So it gave us perspective that we would have, not to say we would have never have gotten to, but it became a monster shortcut to get there super quickly and immediately and excitedly get back home and immediately implement some changes. And that's now the basis, the foundation of a massive pivot of the benchmark existence, which is to include the recovery component now. And we've gone from what has just been a traditional gym space to largely being more of a wellness club. We hold member socials, we have cold plunge, we have red light therapy, we have compression boots, and we do it all under the same roof where members were already lifting weights and running on treadmills. So we become this one point of wellness for anybody to get almost anything that they want out of any given space. We include yoga, we have stretch and recovery. We touch on a lot of things that make you feel better, whether it be physically, emotionally, spiritually, and that's not to gloss over. I don't know of a lot of other places that are doing it in a boutique style the way that we are or have been doing for the time that we have. It's something that I think we saw early, we pivoted to do, and again, it kind of harps back on the first point of this where you see an opportunity. And are you going to make a move to be able to fulfill it because you think it's going to be impactful enough for the community that you're serving? And it has been. It's been very successful. And we're still growing, but it's been very successful up to this point.
You just dropped one of my favorite words, which is community. And that's one thing I think I skipped over when talking about the vision was we had a massive vision of creating a community. And when we sat and wrote down what our core values were when creating Benchmark Fitness, community was at the top of the list. We really wanted to create a space that people loved being in, and that absolutely touches on the experience, the senses, all of that, high quality equipment, super clean environment, a vibe, a culture. And I think we have done that really, really well. But it's also the energy that you infuse into the space that I am so proud to say one of my superpowers is remembering people's names. And I love being able to, and actually, you know what, you guys, I'm going to back up and say, I know how it feels to have someone remember your name. I remember going to this one Starbucks that I used to work close to. And I felt such a joy the day that I ordered my complicated drink and they knew my name. That felt like I just won the Friends Central Perk lottery that they knew my name. And it has left such a mark on me because here I am sharing it on this podcast episode that's something that I wanted to bring into our business. So I take it as I take priority in understanding and knowing people's names. What do they like to go? Are you Mike or are you Michael? Can I call you by your last name sometimes, or are you a first name kind of guy or girl, both? But being able to recognize people or celebrating some of their accomplishments or what's happening in their life. We have a member that's getting ready to come back to the gym this upcoming week. He just had a heart attack and he's been away
off for about 3 months.
For months. And we noticed that about a week after. We're like, this is so strange. Where is he?
Yeah.
And we're so excited to see him walk through the doors on Monday.
And it's going to be emotional.
It will be emotional.
I think it's going to be emotional for a lot of us because he's a part of our mornings and have been 5 days a week for a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And then for him to not be a part of our mornings, and then ultimately the reason why, for him to come back on Monday, he's not going to be the only one that's going to be emotional about it. I think it's going to be a real galvanizing moment in exactly what it is we were trying to create when we decided to purchase and create the space that we have. We want a place that cares more for you about your overall well-being than just whether or not you can be a member at our place.
Yeah, you pay your membership dues and thanks.
Yeah,
we care so much more, and we saw it this morning even on the treadmills. We'll see one of my good girlfriends who is a hairstylist and she has a salon actually right by the gym. I love that she so often has her booking app open and she's booking blowouts and highlights, and it's efficient, but it's also that community. We really wanted to cultivate connection and community and what those relationships mean. We love referring business to our peers and our community members, our friends, but it is just so wonderful to see in action. And that is something that was part of the vision, and that's part of what even with our pivot and expanding into this whole realm of recovery, we wanted to create this more efficient experience. So you can come, whether you walk or you drive and park, that you're coming to Benchmark for maybe 2 or 3 hours. You don't have to come here for 1 hour for your workout and then drive and go somewhere else for your recovery. You can do it all under one same roof.
Yeah, and we're really proud of that, because that was just a vision and a bit of a pipe dream, and here we are. And I'll wrap it up by kind of, Lord knows there's a million other little tidbits of where this has all gone off of, but what has made this so special for us more recently, kind of bringing us to present day Benchmark, is whom we've been able to attract, largely again riffing off of the energy that we bring, that more specifically you consistently bring with how often you're there. That's not lost on the members that are attracted to the space, that are magnetically drawn to the space, with whether it be at online or in person. It doesn't drop off. What you see online is what you get when you walk through the doors. Sometimes better, to be perfectly honest with you. But
Always got to keep them wanting more,
The biggest check mark that we've been able to create, that we are most proud of and most humbled and blessed by, is the team that we have. And right now, I could absolutely confidently say we've never been luckier to have the team of trainers and of overall teammates as a whole. We have a lot of on the back end for support, whether it be with our cleaning crew and all the rest, that are just so dialed in to making sure that the experience is as strong as possible, whether we're there or we're not. And I go down the list of our amazing trainers, whether it be Sydney or Jess, or be Olga, Kayla. These girls will do double duty and run with classes over and above their one-on-one personal training. They create content for us. They engage with community events outside of our walls, representing us accordingly, again, whether we're there or not. And none of this is a fluke. It all happens because you intentionally create in your mind first, and then you take action to put it into a physical space. And the energy that you put out there is largely, almost always, the energy you get back. And what we've seen now, what we've been lucky enough to kind of be able to harvest back in this last year and change with the team that we have, is what's setting Benchmark up for amazing growth, amazing success in the course of the next however many years, but certainly short term for sure.
And I know we've said this before, I think probably more so to each other, but this is a nice intimate setting where we're talking about our story, that we wanted to build it and attract the people that would be wanting something like that. We were
If you build it, they will come.
I know. I didn't want to take the line from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the baseball guy. But we wanted to effectively build a gym that we would want. Where would we want to go to?
Yeah.
And I feel like we should have said that even back in the vision component of this conversation. But what is a space that we would want to invest in for ourselves, for our own fitness and wellness routine? And I love that we have created that.
And here we are.
And are still building on it. And we are getting ready, as we said at the beginning of this episode, to take a next step. We're doing a whole new expansion of the brand. We are going in different places.
Later this afternoon, actually.
Yeah.
So
that's really exciting.
It's a million miles an hour in the best way possible right now.
And I think circling back to the very beginning of this episode, when we were talking about sort of living in momentum, living in chaos, it's such a blessing when you can do that for something that you are so lit up by. And I go through so many different phases and emotions, I think even in a month, where sometimes I feel emotional because I'm so proud of us, of what we've created. And, we don't like to sit in the depths of the resilience component of our story, because that could certainly have more of like a negative vibe or a sad emotion. But
it's a part of the story.
But it's a big part of the story, and we don't want to skip over that. And I feel like we probably could have gone deeper into that, but I also wanted to share a lot with you in this episode. But it's something that we're so proud of, and I think it has really, as you said, created a thick skin for us between what we went through, some of the conversations we had to have with people.
And also what we are not prepared to ever let happen to us again.
Yeah.
And that's a big part that shouldn't also be glossed over. I think you learn lessons about, where you find yourself and how that feels and what it means to make the commitment to each other and to yourself that you are not going to allow this to be a feeling within your control to ever feel again.
Mm-hmm. And we are so excited to be in the driver's seat of what we are creating, what we are building and expanding. And put your seatbelts on, guys, because
fun times ahead.
We're on a little Benchmark rocket ship, and we are freaking excited.
We sure are.
So if you didn't know, you can find us on Instagram at Benchmark Burlington, as well as benchmarkfitness.ca if you just kind of want to check out what we're about, as well as, of course, our own personal Instagrams, which we will link in the show notes. But we are so excited for sharing our story.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
And I feel like we could have easily made it even longer, but maybe there's another version down the road.
Deal.
After this big project. So buckle up, put your little Benchmark Fitness seatbelts on, get ready for the Benchmark Fitness rocket ship, and
It's go time, baby.
it's go time. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.